Okay, so you've just spent over an hour carving out a piece, only to realize that you did a dumb thing. You married and welded all your letters into your design up here, but you forgot to create the correct font and application down here, so now your E is completely cut out, the 9s and the 8 are completely cut out, so that's not going to look anything like an actual number. Should have been like a stencil type font instead of that, since there was nothing there to marry it to. So what do? Do you throw it all away? Nope. Let me show you how we're going to fix this. So the first thing we need to do is cut out a nice perimeter around the screw up. But we're going to keep all of our pieces because we're going to need them. Alright, so I've weeded everything from the work bed except for the screw up and the piece I cut it out. Now this is my tip for getting all those pieces and not have to go fish them out from underneath your honeycomb. You just take you a good old piece of Scotch tape. And usually got everything all in one nice easy pickup. Everything's intact, all the pieces are together, because we're going to need all of that, most of that.
Okay guys, so you had your head in the clouds and you wasn't paying attention to your design as you was putting the fonts on the bed, and you've ended up cutting out a piece that shouldn't have been cut out, and now you've ruined the whole project. Start all over. Wasted material, wasted time. Well, before you throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you were fortunate enough to recognize your mistake and your error before you've moved your project on the workbed, everything is anchored to the workbed. There is a way you can fix this as long as you take a couple things into consideration. So let's jump in here and look at what we got. So when I initially laid out the last name, I welded it to the font, and so everything's going to cut out nice and hold itself in place. But when I did the date, I screwed up and failed to take into consideration the inner parts of the 8, the 9, and the letter E. And so when they cut out, the silhouette is all that's left, and that looks like caca. That's not going to work. But instead of throwing this whole thing out, I have a way to fix this. Now, because my laser goes to a fixed position every time instead of going to the random home position on the X-Tool D1, where it bounces around the end rails and you don't know where it's actually going to come to rest, I send my laser to a fixed position when job complete of 1010. So it's not hitting a rail and then bouncing off a rail. It just goes straight to 1010 and stops. So now I can send that laser back out to that same job and feel pretty confident that within a very fraction of a millimeter, it's going to be in the same position. Can't always count on an exact double burn if you needed to, but in a situation like this, it works flawlessly. What I'm going to do is create an inlay to correct my mistake. Now, I saved my pieces from the original cut, so I've got the original letters and numbers that I can put in an inlay and make this work and actually add character to the project, add value to the project. So how I do this, I select my rectangle tool, come in here to the center, approximate center of that established 1998, hold my control button, and start drawing out a rectangle until I've encompassed and enclosed that entire thing. Now I'm a little bit off center there, but that's okay. But now I've got a good rough estimate on my size. So now I come to my select tool, and I want to center that over my established 1998. So with my rectangle selected, hold my shift key and select my font there, and I'm going to tell it to bullseye over the numbers and letter. So now that's centered. and it's actually, no, that'll work, because it actually looks pretty good. What I look for is I want to make sure I've got pretty equal distance between this top cut of the original and between the 9. So that rectangle there, it can actually be just a wee bit taller, about like that. So now that looks like it's pretty equal distance between this cut and the 9, and everything looks centered up. All right, so now though, to make this look nice and just not so boxy, select your rectangle, come down and select your corner radius. Now for me in this design, a 1/4 inch radius is what works best. You'll have to just play with your radius size to see what works for you, and you can do that here by just changing the size of your radius and select. And now, so now we'll have 2 different size radiuses. Well, actually you can't, because that 3/4 inch radius would be too large for this particular square. So that's, if you haven't played with radius tool and know its limitations yet, that's I have a video on that, and I'll put that in the comments below. So let's take this back down to a 1/4 inch, because I know that works. Come on. 1/4. What's happening here? Let's zoom. There, radius. There. Okay. Okay, so now that looks good. I can live with that. So now all I need to do, and again, remember, my original piece is still anchored to the bed in a fixed position. I'm starting from a known position, so I can send that laser back out to cut that rectangle. But I don't need it to cut the whole thing, so I need to just select rectangle, put it on its own path, and tell it not to output. You don't even need to see it right now if you don't want to. You can turn off output and show. So if you go to preview, all you have is just that rectangle, which will take a few seconds to cut out. So send that laser out, you cut out that rectangle, and then you can lift your piece, your project from the workbed. And what I do is I leave this rectangle and all of the numbers and letters intact on the workbed, take that masking tape, apply it to the surface of it, and then lift that entire thing off the workbed intact. And that keeps, hopefully keeps anything from falling through your honeycomb, and you keep everything in place. You don't lose it, because you're going to need all those little pieces. All right, so once you've made that rectangular cut, weeded everything off the bed, save this on some tape, set it to the side, and now we're going to create our inlay. Now I happen to have another piece of wood here that is the same thickness, which is we're going to work out great. And that's another thing. You got to be aware of the thicknesses of your material, both your inlay and your original, because you want those to be, pretty even and not proud or sunken in. So this is a key to having the inlays work, is the right thickness of materials. All right, so let's show everything again. And now what I need is just my established 1998 and my rectangles. The rectangle's already selected. I'm going to select my 1998. I'm going to group those together, zoom out, select my overall project only, and move it off my path. Now I have this to work with. Now this is going to be cut out of a random piece of wood, sample of remnants, whatever, that happen to be the right thickness. So its position on the table is irrelevant. You can put it wherever you need it to be to accommodate your material on your workbed. I'm going to move it to the center. Now, there are a couple of things that you need to take into consideration when you're cutting out inlays. And I've got a video on the working with inlays, I think, on the earrings. I'll put that link down in the description. But when you cut out with the X-Tool D1, it has it's supposed to be a 0.08 kerf, or that's how much waste material is generated. So you've already made this cut once on your original piece. Now you're going to make it again on your scrap piece. They're both going to have the equal amount, 0.08 kerf or waste. So when you go to lay this rectangle into your original piece, it's going to fit. It's going to fit easily and have possibly just a little bit of movement. You can accommodate for that if you play with your kerf settings and increase your kerf settings. And I've done that enough with my laser to know that I can increase this kerf on my outer rectangle, which is layer 1 here, the blue layer, to a 0.004 outward kerf, 0.004 outward kerf. Now that is going to make for a real snug fit with that rectangle, and it's going to glue in nice and have very little gap. Now it should work for the letters as well, but instead of me rolling the dice on this project, because I know the project is already cut and I'm not experimenting with anything, and if I get this wrong, then the whole thing is wasted, I'm only going to increase on that outer diameter of that rectangle to fill that void real nice, and I know it's not going to screw anything up. So I'm going to cut my letters out exactly as they were on the original piece, and I'll do the same process when I'm done. I'll use tape to pick everything up and then come back in and piece all that together inside the original piece. So let's send this to the laser and get that cut and then piece everything together, glue it up, cross our fingers, and see if we've saved this piece.
So with just a little bit more time, I actually turned that into a really nice piece with an inlay, as opposed to scrapping the whole piece and starting over. That turned out really nice. So don't give up on your screw-ups. Think of a creative way to fix them, and an inlay might be the trick.
Okay guys, so that was a quick save and actually improved the project. So thank goodness for happy accidents. And I've actually, having posted that on my Facebook, seeing that inlay, I've sold out of all of my blanks in about 2 hours. So something that was completely accidental turned into something that created a high demand. Who knew? So maybe you take this design and run with it. But the object of the lesson here, or this video, was don't give up on your mistakes. There might just be a way you can save it, and then if you do, it benefited me greatly today. So I'm Steve. I'm Hobo with Wood. I appreciate you guys watching. I thank all of my subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, I think it's there. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell for notifications. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments right now. I've got a few enough subscribers that I try to get back to everybody that's got a valid question. I thank you for all your compliments, and I thank you for all the insults. So, thanks for watching. I enjoy doing these videos, and we'll see you in the next one. This is Steve, Hobo with the Wood. I'm out.